Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
This week on Muskogee Vision, we take a look at the 1866 Treaty with the Creeks. We visit a Creek citizen whose barbecue restaurant is flourishing with help from the Muskogee Loan Fund. And we speak with Creek artist Yadika Fields about his migration back to Tulsa, his love of running, and his collaboration with The Gathering Place. And in case you missed it, we close the program out today with the sights and sounds of Native American Day on Guthrie Green. Today is the Muskogee Creek Nation primary election, and Muskogee Media would like to encourage all Creek citizens to get out and vote. And once again, thanks for watching Muskogee Vision.
Well, when I was a child, I used to spend a lot of time with my mom. She had a small charcoaler, and I would be out when she would be cooking and watching her and learning things from her. I've actually been cooking probably for about 45 years. I've actually had the restaurant open for about 5.5 years. I knew that the tribe had monies available, so I just inquired and was directed in the right direction to the Muskogee Loan Fund people. We now have a mobile food truck that we've had about a month and a half now, and they assisted me financially in acquiring the food truck. We've only ran it about a week, and the season for food trucks is about over now because it will not start back up until the spring. But what we're hoping to do is to set it up in some of the local businesses as well as some of the hospitals and run it that way. Our specialty would have to be our potato, slap potato. It consists of a baked potato with, if you desire, sour cream and butter on it. Then we put your choice of meats, might be brisket, pulled pork, hot link, sausage, just whatever you decide to put on it, with the exception of ribs. We don't put ribs on the potatoes. And then we top it off with barbecue sauce and ranch salad dressing.
So how many of these do you guys think you do a day? Can't count?
Maybe 70, at least 70.
70 to, I would say 70 to 100.
Yep.
Yeah, 70 to 100.
We already did about 40 already.
Holy moly.
That's the ranch. Some people don't eat ranch. For some reason, that combination.
This is what we call our slap potato.
That's amazing.
Most popular, brisket and hot links.
It is. That's what people ask for most of the time, is brisket and hot links. I had a concession trailer at one time. My brother and I did, and we ran it during the summer months for a couple of years. And we were supposed to open this restaurant together, but he was not comfortable leaving his job in order to do this. So my wife and I kind of striked out and did it on our own. It's going great. It's going great. We don't do any type of marketing. We don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth, and it's growing at a real slow but steady pace. We were selected as in the top 10 barbecue places in Tulsa probably a couple of weeks ago. I think what you'll find here is that the service is excellent, the food is excellent, and the atmosphere is very conducive to what we do. We play a lot of nice jazz music, and we have customers that come in and stay sometimes for hours because it's so comfortable here. And as you can see inside, it's very inviting, cozy. We really are going to push that food truck this spring We'll do some things probably this fall and winter, but because of the weather, people won't turn out in numbers. But there's probably some things we're going to try to do this spring with a truck that I think is going to be great.
Muskogee Media presents What is the 1866 Treaty? In April 1861, the Civil War broke out in the United States shortly after President Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated president. This resulted in the withdrawal of federal troops from Indian Territory, which later became modern-day Oklahoma. The 5 civilized tribes were, at this point, well established in the territory, and the withdrawal of these troops put them in a difficult position. Soon, Albert Pike, representing the Confederate government, showed up in the territory to secure agreements with the tribes. While other tribes, such as the Choctaw and Chickasaw, were united in support of the Confederacy, the Creek Nation was divided, with almost an equal number of troops on both sides of the war. April 9, 1865, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant, effectively ending the Civil War. September 1865, the federal government and the 5 civilized tribes met to negotiate at the Fort Smith Council. Commissioner of Indian Affairs Dennis N. Cooley informed the tribes that because they had sided with the Confederacy, the tribes had forfeited their rights, annuities, and land claims under previous treaties. The federal government was going to ignore the fact that 3 of 5 tribes had been divided in support of the Confederacy. New agreements would have to be drafted and signed, and the federal government required certain provisions in each treaty. The treaties would grant amnesty for crimes committed against the United States during the war, but required that the tribes abolish slavery, incorporate freedmen into their citizenship, and give up part of their lands for other tribal settlement. August 11, 1866, the Creek Treaty was signed and proclaimed. The ramifications for these agreements would last for over 150 years. Before Europeans stepped foot on the North American continent, southeastern tribes had already established a long history of capturing enemy combatants in raids and utilizing them as slaves. These slaves were sometimes incorporated into the tribe through intermarriage and tribal ceremony. Generations of literal and later ceremonial combat between tribes and tribal towns led to an intricate web of intermarriages and adoptions that formed the basis of the importance of the Creek tribal town and clan affiliation that citizens continue to this day. Indeed, an argument could be made that this process eventually led to the formation of the Creek Confederacy and its required political and familial agreements and alliances. Up until the 1866 treaty, some freedmen, as well as Europeans and members of other tribes, had been incorporated into the Creek tribe through these traditional methods. It is important to recognize a distinction from this cultural practice and the economic model of slavery that was introduced to Native Americans by European contact, which emphasized the utilization of humans as property and part of a business model. With the signing and ratification of the 1866 treaty, freedmen became citizens in the Creek Nation, regardless if they had been assimilated into the tribe by traditional methods or not. It is this distinction between the methods of obtaining membership for freedmen that has resulted in the long and bitter fight to decide the citizenship of the Creek Nation. Even now, legal battles are fought over the application of the 1866 treaty with the Creeks in regard to citizenship as well as tribal jurisdiction. At the United States Supreme Court, the validity of the 1866 treaty is a key element of the Muskogee Creek Nation's argument for expansion of the tribal jurisdiction, even though the Muskogee Creek Nation Constitution does not allow for freedmen to be citizens of the tribe, a requirement stipulated in the treaty. Forged in the Civil War reconstruction effort, the 1866 treaty continues to be a firebrand in relations between the 5 civilized tribes, freedmen, and the federal government.
I was born in Tulsa, and I grew up in Stillwater, grew up in northeastern Oklahoma, graduated high school in 2000, and then went to school in the East Coast in Boston. And after Boston, went to work and make art in New York City for 12 years. And after that, went to the Pacific Northwest for a bit, and then came back to Tulsa, where I've been working here and with the Tulsa Artist Fellowship. So currently I'm in my third year, going into my fourth year, and this is the studio space facilitated by the Tulsa Artist Fellowship. It's a program that's been instituted in Tulsa, Oklahoma to enrich the community here with artists. It offers a platform for writers and visual artists, and it's in its fifth year, and I'm currently going into my fourth year, but I'm in my third year with it. So that's what puts me back in Oklahoma as a working artist, is this program, the Tulsa Artist Fellowship here. So it's allowed me to develop myself, develop my art, develop my understanding of the Oklahoma politics, the landscape of it, all the networking components, and being indigenous here in Oklahoma, and to help facilitate whatever I can on the platform that I have, because it's a big one. I'm not going to have it for I'm not going to have it for forever. It's a short period, but while I have it, I'm definitely trying to fast track a lot of things. I'm not a graphic designer. I say I'm a painter. I don't really do logos and stuff like that. In fact, I kind of shy away from it. Just to not get involved in it. I try to just stick to the brush and application on canvas or wall. I said, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a painting, rather it's not going to be digital, it's not going to be, through Photoshop or whatever. It's going to be a literal painting, and then we're going to work with a media department here in Tulsa, and then they're going to take this painting and change it up, digitize it pretty much. And that's what they did, and we came up with something that we thought would work, and that's kind of what became of it. But overall, after talking with the Gathering Place and knowing what they are and who they are, and what they want to bring to the site, and also the Gathering Place is an initiative on the same lines of the Tulsa Artist Fellowship. We work under the same umbrella here. So it makes sense, this to all be correlating and working together. So my idea through it all is being native from here and being someone who's traveled around the States to a lot of cultural activities, ceremonies, or events. And just as a contemporary native today, that's what we do. We travel. We travel far and wide to go see family. We travel for events, we travel for namings, we travel for ceremonies. That's what we do, We're a people that's been moved from our ancestral homelands to create our own homelands, whether it's reservations given to us by the government or creating our own, areas of living. We have to go back and forth now, It's not just we have this one community. We are dispersed and moving around constantly. So with that in mind, I wanted to create kind of an emblem that makes that journey. And so it's just simple, it was a butterfly. It was simple, but it has my own dynamic of color and movement to it, and it's vibrant, because everything that we do in life as Indigenous people is to portray our resilience with vibrancy that we carry, whether that's in the regalia that we wear in our dance, in our ceremonies, in our songs. It has rhythm, just like a butterfly wing does in the wind. Running has been in my life for really, I'd say 4 years, When I was in my 20s, growing up in New York City, I was a bike messenger, living a wild lifestyle, just like all bike messengers do. I feel like in cities when they're young, you have your own clique, you have your own crew, and you're in Midtown Manhattan, going from Battery Park to Harlem, making that trip about 5 times. You're maybe going 70 miles a day, and you go home to Brooklyn. And then you go out and hang out with your friends to numb yourself from the craziness you've been in all day, and you repeat yourself, you redo it. And plus just being in New York City for that long and putting yourself out there in that kind of chaos day in and day out, it's just kind of wild, and I think there's an escapism that needs to happen within that. On the flip side of that, I got to see so much of Manhattan that you would never see, that a New Yorker would never see in their lifetime. And the buildings that I've seen, the views that I've seen, the museums that I've seen, the arts that I've seen, working with clients in fashion or boutiques and things like that, you know. So these are inspirations that I utilized in my work as well that I would get being in New York City. But at the same time, I was young, I was in a city, so I was having a good time, you know. It got to a point though where I felt like it wasn't really working for me. I wanted to be healthier too, and I would always come back to Oklahoma in June for ceremonial dances, the Osage dances, and I would always go back to New York afterwards feeling kind of rejuvenated, you know, feeling like myself again, feeling like, okay, I've been home, I feel refreshed, I can go back to the craziness now, you know, and kind of deal with that and then come back. But after a while, you know, you grow old, and not you don't grow old, but you get older and you think about what's important to you know. You shed. You think about what worked and what didn't work, and you get rid of what didn't work, and you try to evolve for the better. You know, not everyone does that, sadly, you know, and so I knew I could, and there are some events in my life and family that led me to make that jump to want to do that, to change totally, not only for me, but for my family and for, I think, my people and the people that brought me here, you know. I think my ancestors, everyone who's fought hard, you know, to survive, to get my blood here today, you know. I think that'd be selfish of me just to waste that away, partying away somewhere, you know, in New York City, somewhere far away, you know. And it's easy to do, you know. People do it, a lot of Native people do it, you know. And it's nothing to get sad, because I see what we've been put through, you know. There's a lot of words and memories that are thrown out today, trauma and things like that. Well, that's the truth, and that's, you know, that's real, you know. And it takes strength and it takes a lot to overcome that. I have my art to overcome that with. Not everyone has that, and I'm fortunate with that. But with that also comes, I think, responsibility. And I've learned in the past that it's this very strong and powerful responsibility that if I flounder and falter with this thing, it will have an effect on me. It could be detrimental. But if I use it to the full benefit, to empower and to beautify things, to enrich lives, to create resilience, then it gives me strength and it gives people strength. It's a working mechanism I have with art, you know. It's something that I've learned. It's very, very powerful, and it's helped me. And so now, as I'm older, I'm more professional with it. I'm more responsible with it in life and with art and how I perceive the world that I walk on. I'm able to give it all my best and give it all my best to the people to help influence and inspire them. And also to be healthier too. You know, I picked up running, and this is 4 or 5 years ago, and then it became, okay, run 1 mile, run 2, run 3, let's get this 5K down from 30 minutes to 25 minutes, from 25 minutes to 20 minutes, from 20 minutes to 18 minutes. And then it's like, okay, let's do like a half marathon, then 50K, 32 miles, let's do that with speed, then let's do 50 miles, and let's do 60 miles, and then my latest race is 90 miles in the Alps with over 30,000 feet of climbing. And it's been a journey. These things are literally a journey, physically, metaphorically, but they allow me to be expressive with my whole body, the whole truth of who I am as a person. You go through so many trials and tribulations in 30 hours of running, being on your feet, seeing 2 sunrises, seeing 2 sunsets, going through all kinds of weather. You go through doubt, you go through anger, but then you think, why am I angry? Where is this coming from? And you figure yourself out on these journeys, but you're also running, it's a race. And then you're accomplished when you finish. And not everyone finishes these things because they are hard. You know, these ultra marathons, they are hard. They take a lot out of you. But if you can do them, you're gonna learn a lot about yourself. It's a journey, it takes a lot of training, it's a dedication. Just like painting, it's the same thing. It's a dedication and persistence to it. And they work together. And that is really all I do, is training and painting. And then the professionalism, what comes with that is traveling often, or doing talks, or doing writing about it, or curating, or helping facilitate everything around that. So it's a full-time job. And then training and racing, that's a full-time commitment too, you know, because it's mind, body, and spirit. Cameron Space Studios right here, 303 North Main Street. We offer rotating exhibitions every first Friday here. So whoever's watching, if you're downtown Tulsa on the first Friday, come by Cameron Studios here. Same block as Kane's Ballroom. But we offer this gallery space is a platform for emerging artists or performance pieces or something that you wouldn't really see in Tulsa, because it's kind of just an alternative space for artists here. It's only been in its first year, so it's still being kind of diced out to how that really operates, and usually we kind of lay the whole year out in January. So, and then we've had a lot of response to people, how can I get in? And so we say, well, we have your name now, so we'll look at it in January. And I think, and it was just me and 2 other people, because there's 3 people in the studio right here, and we kind of pulled out the calendar and looked at, okay, you get these 2 months, you get these 2 months, you get these 2 months, and pick out what you want to do, and so it was kind of an internal project, but it's evolved into something bigger now because it has so much praise, and a lot of people are really into it, and we want to make it more now, so it's kind of evolved. I'm curating a show right now. She's a younger painter, and this will be her first show, but we've also brought in younger artists before that do this, but what other gallery or place is going to offer these younger students an opportunity to have something kind of awesome for themselves? I remember I did have a show when I was younger at a coffee shop, but that really was just like amazing for me when I was like 20 or 29. It was like, this is awesome, and it just does wonders for your confidence. Yeah, I just like to give shout outs to, Muskogee Creek Nation, Osage Nation, Cherokee Nation, all the tribes I'm a part of and from here in Oklahoma. I'm happy to be back in Oklahoma working, happy to be painting here and kind of utilizing this platform to kind of do things that haven't been done for the Native arts in Oklahoma before, and also help facilitate by bringing in other artists from outside, Native artists from other communities, not from Oklahoma, but to help, share their journey and their knowledge and their culture as well. So I think some exciting things will be happening in the next 2 years here for sure. Just be sure and come down to Tulsa, Cameron Studios on First Fridays, and see the open studios, but to come and be a part of it. We want to really kind of make this thing bigger than it is and help a dialogue develop, but we need everyone's support. Not only us, we are the ones helping facilitate it, but we need you, the viewers, and people that are into the arts to come out and help share it and help reinvent some new things. So.
Should have thought about that about a year ago.